Adaeze ran. She ran through the market with her tray of sachet water balanced on her head, bare feet slapping the hot asphalt, sweat running down the sides of her face like tears she didn't have time to cry. A downfall bus nearly clipped her as she crossed the road, the conductor leaning out screaming insults she had long learned to ignore. She steadied the tray, caught her breath, and kept moving. There were 20 sachets left. 20 sachets between her and the 1,500 naira she needed to complete Chisom's school feeding allowance for the week. She sold the last one at the motor park to a truck driver who dropped the 100 naira note into her palm without looking at her. She stared at the money for a moment, then she tucked it into the knot of her wrapper where the rest of the day's earnings lived, and she walked home. If you are watching this story for the first time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel right now, because the story you are about to hear will stay with you for a very long time. Hit that like button and let's begin. Mama Ngozi was sitting outside her compound when Adaeze returned, shelling melon seeds with the kind of patience that only comes from a hard life. She looked up at Adaeze's face and said nothing. She simply shifted on her stool to make room and handed her a cup of cold water. "Did you eat today?" Mama Ngozi asked. Adaeze drank the water before she answered. "I ate in the morning." Mama Ngozi looked at her. "Adaeze, I'm fine, Mama Ngozi." "You are not fine. You are 20 years old and your bones are starting to show through your back. That is not fine." Adaeze smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "When Chisom finishes school, I will eat, I will rest, everything will come." Inside the small room they shared, Chisom was bent over a textbook, her handwriting careful and deliberate, underlining things in pencil. She was 16, sharp-eyed, with their mother's cheekbones and their father's stubborn chin. When Adaeze came in, Chisom looked up and immediately stood. "Ada, you look terrible." "Thank you, Ne. You look like someone who should be studying." Chisom grabbed her arm gently. "Sit down. I heated soup earlier. There's still some left." "I'm not hungry." "Ada," Chisom's voice broke slightly. "Please, sit down and eat." There was something about the way she said it, some cracking sincerity in it that made her obey. She sat on the edge of the mat. Chisom brought the pot, ladled soup into a bowl, tore eba from what was left in the wrapping, and set it in front of her without ceremony. Then she sat beside her, pulled Adaeze's head gently to rest on her shoulder, and held her there. "I will pay you back," Chisom whispered. "Every single thing you have done for me, I will pay it all back." Adaeze closed her eyes. "You don't owe me anything. You are my sister." "Promise me you know that I know," Chisom said. "Promise me you know that I see what you do every day." "I know, Chichi." "Say it properly." Adaeze laughed softly. "I know that you see me." Chisom kissed the top of her head, the way their mother used to, and held her tighter. "Good. Now, eat your food." They had lost their parents 3 years earlier, 2 deaths within 8 months of each other, the kind of loss that arrives not all at once but in slow, terrible waves. Their father first, from an illness nobody properly explained, their mother second, from what the village women called a broken heart, though the hospital had a longer name for it. They were left with Uncle Chukwuebuka, their father's younger brother, who received them with the face of a man accepting a debt he had not personally incurred. His wife was worse. She had a talent for cruelty that came dressed in reasonable language. "We have our own children to feed. This compound is not a charity home. You girls are old enough to understand that life is not easy." Within 3 months, the reasonable language ran out, and one grey morning, she simply set their bag outside the gate and told them the arrangement was over. They were sitting by the roadside, Chisom crying quietly, Adaeze staring straight ahead and calculating, when Mama Ngozi walked past with a basket of tomatoes on her head. She stopped. She looked at them. She put down her basket. "Whose children are you?" she asked. "Okonkwo's children," Adaeze said. "He died last year." Mama Ngozi was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Pick up your bag and follow me." She never explained her decision. She simply made room, in her house, in her food, in her daily prayers, and that was that. Adaeze sold sachet water. She woke at 5, loaded her tray, and walked until the sun had moved all the way across the sky and the market began to thin. She paid Chisom's school fees, she bought Chisom's textbooks, she sewed Chisom's torn school uniform by hand with a needle and thread she borrowed from Mama Ngozi. She did all of this without complaint and without audience, the way people do things when they have decided that a person is worth it and that decision requires no further discussion. When Chisom's WAEC results came back, 8 A's, 1 B, Adaeze stood in the middle of Mama Ngozi's parlor and wept so hard she had to sit on the floor. Chisom knelt in front of her, laughing and crying at the same time, cradling her sister's face in her hands. "We did it, Ada. We did it. Ada, you did it, ne?" Chisom pressed her forehead against Adaeze's and whispered fiercely, We did it. Don't ever say otherwise." The university admission letter arrived 6 weeks later. Law, University of Lagos. It was everything. It was also 300,000 naira in fees per year, a number that sat on Adaeze's chest like a stone when she first read it. She read it 3 times. Then she folded the letter, put it in the drawer, and went to find extra work. The night before Chisom boarded the bus to Lagos, they lay side by side on the mat in the dark, both awake, neither speaking for a long time. Then Chisom reached over and took Adaeze's hand. "I'm scared," Chisom said. "I know," Adaeze said. "What if I'm not as smart as they think I am? Then you will walk until you are." Chisom was quiet. Then Chisom said, "Ada, I need you to hear me say this properly. I'm listening. I know that you will never forget what I have done for me. Not ever. When I make it, and I will make it, you will never carry a tray again. You will never walk in the sun again. I will build something. I will give you back everything. I swear it on Mama and Papa's graves." Adaeze closed her sister into her arms. She held her tightly. This girl she had starved herself to protect. This girl who was about to board a bus and step into a world Adaeze could only imagine. "Just make us proud," she said softly into Chisom's hair. "Just come back to me whole." In the morning, she watched the bus pull away. She stood at the park until it disappeared completely. Then she picked up her tray and went back to work. The calls came every Sunday for the first year. Chisom's voice always arrived bright and breathless, full of stories. Her lecturers, her classmates, the size of the campus, the way Lagos smelt different from everywhere she had ever been. Adaeze would sit with Mama Ngozi's old phone pressed to her ear, eyes closed, listening like someone receiving a letter they had waited a long time for. "Are you eating well?" Adaeze always asked first. "Ada, stop. Tell me about you." "I'm fine. I'm always fine. Tell me about school." And Chisom would talk, and Adaeze would listen, and for those few minutes every Sunday, the distance between them collapsed completely. Second year, the calls became fortnightly. The explanations were reasonable. Exams, group assignments, the inconsistency of network coverage in her hostel. Adaeze accepted all of them without question. She sent money when she could, always with a short message passed through a neighbor who had a better phone. "Eat well, sleep, study hard, I am here." Third year, 2 months passed without a word. Adaeze borrowed Mama Ngozi's phone and called the number 4 times in one evening. It rang and rang. The 5th time, it was answered by a voice she didn't recognize. A girl, bored, barely paying attention, who said Chisom wasn't available and hung up before Adaeze could respond. She sat for a long time in the compound after that. Mama Ngozi came and sat beside her. "Maybe she's just busy," Mama Ngozi said. "Maybe," Adaeze said. But something had moved in her chest. Something quiet and old. The part of a person that knows things before they are ready to know them. A new number came eventually, weeks later, with a brief message. "New phone. We'll explain later. Fine, here." That was all. No call, no Sunday voice, just those few words landing in Adaeze's hands like a door closing softly. By Chisom's final year, she had stopped explaining the silences at all. And Adaeze, who had spent years learning to carry weight without complaint, carried this one too. She kept sending money, she kept working.
She told herself that brilliant people got busy, that Lagos was a consuming city, that Chisom would call when she had room to breathe. She did not know that in a student apartment in Yaba, her sister was introducing herself to a girl from Victoria Island as an only child. She did not know that her existence, her name, her face, her sachet water tray had been edited out of the story Chisom was writing about herself. She did not know any of it yet, so she waited, and she worked, and she prayed every night that wherever Chisom was, she was safe and whole. The news of Chisom's graduation reached Adaeze through Auntie Uloma, who was breathless with the information in the way only Auntie Uloma could be. She had heard it from her cousin, who had heard it from a woman in their church whose daughter went to Unilag and had seen Chisom at the ceremony. Beautiful, graduating with honors, laughing in photographs with people who looked like they had never known hunger. There was no invitation, there was no phone call, there was nothing. Adaeze sat with that fact the way you sit with something too heavy to stand up from. Then she got up and went to work. Months later, Auntie Uloma arrived again, this time with an expression that mixed gossip with genuine disbelief. Adaeze, sit down before I tell you this. Tell me standing. Your sister is getting married. The silence that followed was long enough for a cloud to cross the sun. Who? Adaeze said. A big man in Lagos, Ozoduwa, Chief Dubem Ozoduwa. My sister's husband's brother works in one of his companies. The wedding was on social media. My neighbor's daughter showed me the dress alone they are saying was 5 million naira. Adaeze did not react the way Auntie Uloma had perhaps expected. She didn't gasp, she didn't cry. She simply looked somewhere past Auntie Uloma's left shoulder and said nothing for a while. Then she said, "Thank you, Auntie Uloma." She borrowed money from Mama Ngozi for a bus ticket to Lagos. She didn't tell Mama Ngozi the full story. She said only that she needed to see Chisom, that it had been too long, that she needed to see for herself that her sister was well. Mama Ngozi looked at her for a moment, then went inside and came back with a small bundle of folded naira notes. Don't let anyone disrespect you, no matter what you find. Adaeze hugged her and left before dawn. The estate in Ikoyi was the kind of place that made you aware of your own shoes. Tall gates, uniformed security, manicured hedges in colors that seemed too deliberate to be natural. Adaeze stood at the entrance and gave her name and said she was there to see Chisom Ozoduwa, that she was her sister. The security man's expression didn't change. He picked up a phone, spoke quietly, waited, spoke again. Then he came back. Madam says she doesn't know you. Please, madam, I am asking you to leave. Adaeze stood very still. Tell her again. Tell her Adaeze is here, her sister from Anambra. He went back to the phone, came back. Madam says she has no sister. Please, madam, I am asking you to leave. She left. She sat on a concrete block outside a bus stop 3 streets away and stared at the ground for a long time. A little boy selling groundnuts watched her from a distance, unsure whether to approach. She bought a wrap of groundnuts she didn't eat and took the next bus back to the motor park. She came back 2 months later. She had saved again, carefully, quietly. She stood once more at those iron gates in the early morning, and this time, by something that felt like God's own scheduling, a white SUV was pulling out of the compound just as she arrived. The tinted window on the passenger side was partly open. Through that window, for one fractured second, Chisom saw her. Adaeze saw her see her. Chichi, ne, it is me, Ada, your sister from Anambra. The car stopped. Chisom stepped out.
I don't know who you are, Chisom said, and her voice was clear and cold and loud enough for the security man, the driver, and the house girl watching from the compound wall to hear every word. I have no sister. If you come to this gate one more time, I will have you arrested. Do you understand me? She got back in the car. The car moved. Adaeze stood at the gate. Her face crumpled. She pressed her hand to her mouth. She cried, not quietly, not carefully. She cried the way a person cries when the thing they feared most has just confirmed itself to be true. Upstairs, behind a glass window, Chief Dubem Ozoduwa watched. He had been standing there with his morning coffee going cold in his hand, having come to the window at the sound of the raised voice below. He watched the car leave. He watched the woman at the gate press her hand to her face. He watched her try to compose herself. He watched her fail. He set down his coffee. He called his aide. The woman at the gate, he said, "Bring her in. Bring her to the small sitting room. Give her water and something to eat. Tell her I am coming." His aide hesitated. "Sir, Madam said..." "I said bring her in." You are exactly halfway through this story and it is about to get even more intense. If you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit the subscribe button, hit like and stay with us because what Chief Dubem is about to discover will change everything. Adaeze sat in the small sitting room with a glass of cold water she held in both hands like something sacred. The room was not the grand hall she had passed through on the way in. It was quieter, with 2 armchairs and a low table and a single painting on the wall of a river at dawn. She sat very straight, the way people sit when they are determined not to look like what they feel. Chief Dubem Ozoduwa came in without ceremony. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that had seen enough of life to stop being surprised by most of it. He sat across from her, set his elbows on his knees, and looked at her directly. "Tell me who you are." "My name is Adaeze Okonkwo. Chisom is my younger sister." "Start from the beginning, leave nothing out." So, she told him. She told him about the mud compound, their father's illness, their mother's slow collapse afterward. She told him about Uncle Chukwebuka and his wife's particular cruelty. She told him about Mama Ngozi and the bowl of gari and groundnut soup that was the first kindness they had received in weeks. She told him about the sachet water tray, the motor park, the asphalt, the cracked heels, the skipped meals. She told him about 300,000 naira per year and how she had moved her body like a machine to make that number appear. She told him about the Sunday calls that became fortnightly and then monthly and then nothing. She told him about standing at his gate the first time and the second time and what Chisom said in front of the driver and the security men and the house girl on the wall. She spoke without performance, without the pleading inflection of someone asking to be believed. She spoke the way people speak about things they have lived, plainly, precisely, with the particular weight of memory that cannot be invented. When she finished, she opened her one handbag and placed a photograph on the table between them. 2 girls in a single photograph, the younger one grinning widely, gap teeth, her arm thrown around the older girl's neck, the older one with her hand resting on the younger one's head, looking directly at the camera with a quiet steadiness that even in faded print was unmistakable. Chief Dubem picked up the photograph. He looked at it for a long time. He looked at the girl on the left and then he looked at the woman sitting across from him and he said nothing for a moment. Then he set it down. "Stay here tonight," he said. "Don't go anywhere." He found Chisom in their bedroom, standing at the window, still in the cream blouse, arms crossed over herself in the way a person stands when they are bracing for weather. She heard him coming. She didn't turn around. "Chisom," he said, "whatever she told you, turn around." She turned. He was holding the photograph. He placed it on the dresser between them, face up, and waited. The silence in that room lasted long enough that the evening call to prayer drifted in from somewhere outside before either of them spoke. "Emeke, let me explain." "Explain what exactly?" His voice was not raised. It was worse than raised. It was quiet and final in the way doors are quiet and final when they close. She sold water, he pointed at the photograph. She sold sachet water under the sun so that you could attend university. She went without food so that you could have feeding allowance. She walked on hot roads until her feet cracked. And you told me you had nobody. Chisom's chin was trembling. "You don't understand what it was like. People here, your friends, your colleagues, they don't come from where I came from. I was ashamed. I was trying to what? To be worthy of me?
His voice broke slightly on the word. Chisom, I chose you. I sat across from you at dinner and I listened to you talk and I thought, here is an honest person. Here is someone who has earned her own sharpness and you were lying to me the entire time. I'm sorry, you will be, he said quietly, but not to me first. He brought Chisom to the small sitting room himself. Adaeze stood when they came. The two sisters stood 8 feet apart, and the distance between them was made of years and hunger and silence and choices. Chisom opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. Ada, don't, Adaeze said softly. Don't rush it, just say what's true. Chisom pressed her lips together. Her eyes filled. She said, I am ashamed. I am ashamed of what I did to you. I am ashamed of what I became. I stood at that gate and I looked at your face and her voice broke. I told myself a problem to be managed. I told myself I had moved too far forward to look back. But the truth is I was a coward and I knew it even as I said the words. Adaeze was very still. Everything you did for me, Chisom continued, crying now, properly, her polished composure entirely gone, her shoulders shaking, every sachet of water, every night you went to sleep hungry, every time you sent money and didn't ask when you would call back, I carried all of it, Ada. I didn't forget. I just chose myself over you, and I called it moving forward, and it was the worst thing I have ever done.
She crossed the room and took Adaze's hands, both of them, and held them the way you hold something you are terrified of dropping again. I don't deserve you to forgive me, she said, but I am begging you. I am begging you. Adaeze looked at her sister's face. This face she had memorized in the dark of Mama Ngozi's room. This face she had watched through a bus window disappearing into Lagos and prayed over every night since. She felt the full weight of everything, all of it at once. The years, the tray, the cracked feet, the gate, the cold words spoken loudly for an audience. She felt all of it. And then she pulled her sister forward and held her. She held her the way she had held her the night before the bus left, tightly, without words. The two of them standing in a quiet room in an Ikoyi mansion, with the evening pressing gently at the windows and Chisom sobbing against her shoulder, and Adaeze with her eyes closed and her hand on the back of her sister's head, the way their mother used to hold them both. You are still my sister, Adaeze said quietly. You are always still my sister. Chief Dubem, standing at the doorway, looked away. In the days that followed, he moved with deliberate purpose. He enrolled Adaeze in his skills and entrepreneurship program at a reputable institute in Lagos, not as charity, but as restoration of what had been delayed. He provided startup capital sufficient for a small business to breathe and grow. He did it directly, simply, without theater, the way people do things when they understand what is actually being corrected. To Chisom, he gave a different instruction. You will serve your sister in this house. You will bring her food. You will sit with her in the evenings. You will be present in the ways you are absent for years. Not because it erases anything, but because your hands need to remember what has felt like. Chisom obeyed. At first, stiffly, carefully, like someone reading from a script they have not yet memorized. She brought Adaze's meals. She sat beside her in the evenings. She asked questions she should have asked years ago. What Mama Ngozi was like now, whether the motor park had changed, small things, ordinary things, the texture of a life she had deleted from her own story. Gradually, over evenings and quiet mornings, something between them that had been concrete began to soften into something living. One night, they sat on the veranda together while Lagos hummed and glittered below. Chisom looked at Adaeze for a long time before she spoke. I told people I was an only child, she said. I said it so many times it almost stopped feeling like a lie. I know, Adaeze said. How did you keep going after the gate, after everything? How did you not just stop? Adaeze thought about it. Because you are still my sister, she said simply. That wasn't a decision I had to make every day. It was just true. Chisom looked out at the city. I don't know how to be that kind of person. You don't have to know how. You just have to stop choosing not to be. They sat together until the city's light began to blur at the edges. Two sisters returned to each other across a distance that money had created and love had refused to accept as permanent. There is a truth that lives in every family, in every village, in every city where someone has climbed from one life into another and looked back at where they came from with something other than gratitude. The truth is this: you cannot outrun your roots. You can dress them differently. You can put distance between yourself and the soil. You can build walls and change numbers and tell new stories in new rooms. But the root remains, and the water that fed it remembers. Adaeze had watered Chisom's life with her own, and water, in the end, always finds its way back. That is the complete story of Adaeze and Chisom. 3,000 words, and every single one of them true to the human heart. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone, if it made you think about a person you may have forgotten, please like this video right now and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story like this one. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And before you go, drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching this from? We want to hear from you. God bless you, and we will see you in the next story.